What evil lurks in the dark? A question we have all asked ourselves many times. Together, we can start uncovering the truth and mystery behind the darker side of the otherworldly. And now your host of See You in the Dark, Michelle Roos.
Good evening to everyone, and welcome back to another episode of See You in the Dark. Tonight, it's going to get a little bit darker because I have got the perfect guest here. Someone who has seen the darkness, who works with the darkness, but also in the field and has seen everything that's been going on lately. We're going to tap into some of the things of does some of this drama and some of the hate and stuff that's going on in the field, trickle over into some of the investigations? And is this why some of these are becoming darker, more people getting attachments, and, just kind of going down that rabbit hole? Again, we're not calling people out. We're not saying bad things about individuals, but we're looking at this as something as a whole. And how does it affect the things that we do nowadays, helping families? Are we bringing things into them? And just kind of start, peeling that onion. And before I bring this guest on, I have been privileged to call this person a friend of mine. um, he is an amazing source. He knows so many things. His name is Tom Springer. And Tom has been in the paranormal field for a little while now. But his abilities have just amazed me. I mean, it's psychic and mediumship abilities. But the crazy thing is, I have watched him actually also tap into energies of elementals and things. And you don't see a lot of people who can do this, but it also gives him another outlook of what is going on in a location. He is also one of many few that have seen the big guy behind me. And so then I definitely know we've got the real deal. So before you guys just have to listen to me chitter chatter this whole evening, I would love to bring in my special guest tonight, Tom Springer. How are you, Tom?
I'm good, Michelle. How are you tonight? Thank you.
I am doing good. I know a lot of people have actually probably watched your show. If you haven't, it'll be scrolling down on the bottom, but you do need to check out Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. It is an amazing show. And if you want to hear a little bit about everything, that's the place to go. So, Tom, why don't we just get started? Just
Sure.
kind of tell people a little bit about yourself. You sent me a bio. I
Yep.
remember you teased me about how big mine was. Well, you're catching up. So I'm going to give it to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Like Michelle said, first off, thank you for having me on. And absolutely, was very honored when you asked me to come on here. For those who have not met me, my name is Tom Springer, and I do run the show Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. And it started out because I am pretty new to the paranormal slash everything world. My awakening took place about 3 years ago, but it hit me like drinking from a fire hose. Everything flooded into me at once, and it has branched off from there to where I do the normal paranormal, or what I guess a lot of people call the normal paranormal of um, being able to do the psychic part and the mediumship part, but I also do the elemental part, which you spoke about. And I actually see, hear, and talk to elementals just like I'm talking to anybody normally. It's one of my greater gifts I believe I have that, as you mentioned, not a lot of people have. And from there, it just kind of continued to snowball into more and more to where I can push healing energy across the world. I can see things live as they happen on video, like if you're doing an actual investigation and I'm watching it live, or if I'm watching it the next day, I can tell you if something was there with you. And I've actually done a couple of them where I've seen them like 24 hours later, and I started drawing out what I saw, and then someone else will say, I drew something, and you look at it and it looks just like the same. So They kind of branch out all over the place. I'm not really what I would call a psychic or a medium. I'm what I call an intuitive, because nothing has progressed to be a level of greater than any others. And at this point, I'm being told that all of mine are going to pretty much run equal. So I can just continuously call myself an intuitive and be happy about that. And I am.
That's freaking amazing. Had the privilege to actually investigate just a little bit with Tom.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll get to do it some more. But watching the way he was able to read the room, and not talking about the live people, but I'm talking about the spirits that were around, and was able to pinpoint just like we did, in different areas. And like I said, a lot of us have these abilities. We all do something different. And, to be able to have someone like Tom be able to help me out was, wow, because I was like, nobody ever gets to do that.
Right.
And to know what I already was seeing and be able to do those warnings at those times, I got to say, I couldn't thank him enough. Plus, a little secret, everyone, he does bake. That is even better, right?
You guys got to witness one of the few times I went ahead and baked the chocolate chip cookies and brought them over for others.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to thank everyone who is listening tonight. This is going to be an amazing show. And I say, let's go ahead and just jump into this.
Let's go.
All right. So I have been kind of going down this rabbit hole of different types of darkness. How does it all kind of piece together, almost like a puzzle? And we talk about, is it just out there, or are we just now stumbling upon it? Or is it starting to be fueled by different things? I did have a guest on last week. We were talking about like the horror flicks and things like that, how it sucks people in, your IDTV.
Yep.
And does that start opening up these gateways for more of these negative energies coming? And, are we building something up ourselves? Or were we just had blinders on, and just now everybody's opening their eyes to see it? Kind of what are your thoughts on that?
So my thought process on this is something that's newer. I believe there's so much now as far as on the spiritual side, negative and positive, that it's becoming more prevalent and more open now. We've always had an underlying notice of it when things were first starting to happen, when you first had the earlier shows on, or you first had the earlier people on site that have been doing it for years and years. But with so many people tapping into the energy or into whatever you want to call it, it gives it another avenue for the darkness to come in. And with it growing as fast as it is, it allows that darkness to grow even faster and at a rapid pace. And if we're not careful with it, or we don't pay attention that it is not all light, positive, sunshine, it will get its own head, and it could take off in a negative way to where we're going to have to find another way to rein it in.
Well, and that's what we've talked about too. We have a lot of locations or different areas that we go to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people talk about, these are the spirits that are here, whether they actually know those are the spirits or because the history books have put them in there, from that town or whatever. And it seems like people have kind of lost sight of, when we're talking about negative energy, we're talking about things that can mimic good. We're talking about things that can stay hidden for a long while before it shows itself, because it needs the right person or people to do that.
Right.
And I have noticed that when we're talking to folks nowadays, it's kind of like they forget to do that. They forget to look in past that. Everybody's always a child, or it's always a grandmother, or it's always something different.
Correct.
I mean, at what point do you think have we lost sight of when we're investigating, we're supposed to look at all angles?
I think some of it comes with the fact that a lot of people who are now calling themselves investigators are not. They're ghost hunters.
Yeah.
And so they don't understand the difference. So they only trust with a lack of skepticism that there used to be, because they just don't know any better. And I think that's a pretty big part of what we're seeing and what we're hearing, what we're starting to deal with, is because they'll read about the mimics, they'll hear about someone talking about, be careful, this is not a grandma that you think used to live in the house or anything else. But their thought process is, well, that's not going to happen to me. I know what I'm doing. Well, if you don't, and even if you do, you can still be tricked. And that's been proven time and time again, that there's no foolproof, guaranteed way to guarantee that what you're dealing with is what you think it is. But I do believe a lot of it now is, like I said, it's a lot of the newness for people who want to get into this, for the notoriety,
Yes.
for the recognition of it, rather than because they want to know really how to expand the knowledge and the science behind it. What it is, what is the proper way to deal with it? What is the proper way to tap into it? What can we learn from it, rather than go, look what I did?
No, I have to agree, because I've noticed that the paranormal field, has actually became very ego-based, I guess you would want to call that.
Yeah.
There are so many great investigators that have been doing it for many, many years, and it wasn't about going to locations. It was mainly taking care of personal families and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so as I'm, going down this rabbit hole, like I said, it's kind of one of those things of, are we doing this and feeding to, some people would call demons, doing their bidding. And, because if I get 5 minutes of fame, it doesn't matter what goes on around me or what I leave behind me. What are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
So think about this. If you are investigating, or I am investigating, and Nikki and I out here do a lot of places that are unknown, or we like to do places that are unknown, that are small, that we're not advertising out to thousands or hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. It's just us. So it kind of tampers down the strength in what may possibly be there. But if you go out and all you do is set up in a location and film it live, and there's something negative there, and that 5 minutes of fame that you get because you caught something that may be a negative entity or something along those lines, well, now it's been manifested by thousands of people watching, not just you. And so that does give more strength, more power to it, because it has a greater audience. And we know how it feeds. We know how they feed. If you give it a name, it sometimes gives power. If you say its name, it sometimes gives power. And if you give it an audience, then why can't it continue to grow through that audience? And it was simply because it was done in a very uncontrolled way, is probably the best way to say it. But that's where I'm seeing this happen, is because of the fact it does tie into, I want my 15 minutes of fame, but so does this thing. And if I catch something on film and someone else goes, that was really cool, I'm going to go there next and I'm going to film it and I'm going to get my 15 minutes of fame with it. Well, now I just doubled my audience. I've just quadrupled my audience. And this thing is growing stronger and stronger. So it really depends on what you're doing it for and why you're doing it. And the strength of what it can grow can manifest and grow at a very rapid rate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that, when we're talking about dealing with these types of entities, that's what we'll call them, that, they can stay dormant as long as forever and ever. They don't have a time, that's like we talk about. They don't have that watch to know, hey, at this time we got to do it. And I've kind of been seeing it, and especially in the paranormal world. I mean, people are going after each other.
Yes.
People are the hate and the rumors and the threats have gotten so bad.
Yes.
And, here a lot of us, like yourself, we've gone through these journeys trying to figure out, where do we fit in? Why are these abilities we have? What is our calling? Because there is a calling for these. That's why people are doing these awakenings, and so I start going back and forth of, okay, if we're all starting to awaken and we're all supposed to be as one, no matter which or what we believe in, we come together. Are we going to become the targets of this negative stuff because we can see it and hear it and all that because of all these vortex portals, whatever you want to call them, are opening up and is just seeping that black, nasty, about to take over. I call it the blob.
Right. Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be true for everybody. I almost really think this is the best way I can put it is this is really going to be a survival of the fittest. Those of us who can see it and recognize it and will actually attempt to fend it off and keep it at bay, or just know our strength, and it recognizes our strength and will not want to play with the stronger ones. It will rather go for the weaker ones or the ones that don't understand it. So I don't think it's something that's just going to go after everybody who has an awakening. I think it's really going to pick its targets and go after the weaker ones, in turn strengthening itself. And you're absolutely right. You can see it. Unfortunately, so the good part about me is I'm independent. I'm not matched up with anybody. I'm not part of a larger group or anything else. So luckily for me, I get to stay pretty much in the blind unless I want to see what's going on in the paranormal world, unless I come across messages like through Facebook or something else, and I see the wars that are happening amongst each other. And it's really bad to see how many. I mean, I've only, like I said, 3 years. 3 years ago, I was not seeing this much hatred and this much backstabbing and turning on everybody that we're seeing now. I mean, it was almost unheard of. I had maybe 1 or 2 instances that I dealt with 3 years ago. Now it's like every time I open up Facebook, there is another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. And what is it that people want that makes them so negative that they want to argue with each other when we're all supposed to be doing the same thing in the field? I mean, anything you do and I advertise you is not hurting me. It's helping me, and it's helping you in the same way. So I don't understand the competitiveness in this field when it should be a camaraderie instead. But it is an everyday thing that you're seeing, and it's just nonstop. And it's pushing some people that have been doing this for years out of it because they just don't like all the negativity they're seeing now. And they see where it's going, unfortunately. And they just like, you know what? This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I signed up to do 20 years ago. I can't do it anymore. It's not being done for the right reasons or the reasons that it should be done. And I'm just tired. And they step out.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot too. But then, also when I'm seeing it, it's kind of one of those where I'm just like, okay, what else is this going to bring in?
Yeah.
Because when we're seeing some of the, the veterans of the paranormal who have seen some things that some of us might not have seen yet,
Right.
They're not willing, they're not going out to help anyone.
Right.
Everything is, who can do the biggest paracon or who can do the biggest thing or who's got the show. And I keep looking at some of these things going, when we were supposed to do some of this, this all started with helping families who couldn't explain what was going on.
Yep.
And helping them to understand, that they're not going crazy or these children, these might be nightmares, but this is how we can help you take care of that. And now it's kind of one where, let's put these families on display and let's put them on TV.
Right.
And now their stuff has gotten worse, but the people who have gone there will not come back.
Right.
They step away. They're done filming.
They got their 10 minutes from it, and they're like, look what we found. And then they leave the family stranded. And the family's like, well, you didn't do anything except for frustrated even more. And we still live here.
Yeah. And again, we have all went out on these journeys, because we're wanting to know, what is there an afterlife? Why are people trapped? What is going on? Or are these spirits really trapped? Or are they doing that just because they want to have communication with the living?
Right. Yeah.
And we're not finding this because as we're, tapping in, like you said, The negative wants that kind of publicity for itself. I mean, that's what it feeds off of.
Yeah.
And it's almost to the point where, I am starting to see more and more of that darkness, which, I came, and said, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. But it's becoming so overwhelming at times
Right.
of, after a storm, we at least get to see a rainbow. I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, and on the flip side of this, I kind of want to. This is another thought process I had. So many teams will go out and investigate the same place over and over and over and over again, and
Oh, yeah.
a lot of them will get negative things. But on the flip side of that, a lot of the families realize they have something there, and so they will continue to invite people in to investigate, so they get their 15 minutes of fame too, not realizing that they're leaving that door open even if someone have already tried to close it once. So it's kind of on the flip side of that as well, where they're like, look, they have to pay attention as well. And it's almost to agreed to where the people who know they have something in their location have that greedy side as well. And they're just like, look what I have. Come to me, give me my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I have to agree. I will say I do go to some of these locations, and I do hear, a lot of them saying, and which has always kind of baffled me too. Everything is always good spirits.
Yeah.
In almost every location you go to, it's always good spirits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at what point have we forgotten you have to have a balance?
Correct.
So whether it's not showing itself right now doesn't mean it can't, because with having hundreds of people coming in and out, somebody's going to drop something off without even knowing they had something.
Right.
But everybody's very hush-hush on that part. But then, everybody's crying everything's demons on the other part when it comes to social media. So It's kind of become its own monster.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to decide also, like you said before, there is no I'll wait till trying to figure the best way to say this. But there is no proof that what you're dealing with all the time is a positive thing. Time does not, like you said, time doesn't exist for these things. It can show itself for 1,000 years as something positive and then turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something that we're taking the risk on doing by going there and saying, oh, all this is positive. How do we know? So, so we got to kind of look out for that as well.
Well, and that's the thing, I can say, when I see the stuff, I see the darker side. I'm very open about it.
You do. Yes.
I'm not the one that's going to give you that beautiful love note from someone who has passed on.
Right.
I'm going to be the one saying, yeah, this old lady you guys say is here is really not an old lady. She is kind of like a witch or something.
Correct.
But then everybody's like, shh, don't say that. We don't want people to know. Well, somebody's going to know when they're not paying attention and they take this thing home with them.
Right. And then all of a sudden you're visiting that house because someone out of nowhere showed up when they were just at a loving, fun place. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, this tug of war right now. It's like, how much do some of us, really want to fight this? Or do we just say, you know what? Nobody wants to get the truth out of things, which also is one of the biggest deals going across the board, is the truth about a lot of things that's going on.
Yeah.
But before we get into that,
Absolutely.
I just want to take a couple of minutes for some of the sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts. We've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot tall statue of Gort and a statue of Klaatu will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the statue project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com.
This September 6th through the 13th, join with like-minded souls in the experience of a lifetime on the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas as we travel from Seattle to Alaska. Internationally renowned researchers, investigators, experiencers, authors, holistic healers, contactees, spiritual luminaries will sail on an extraordinary voyage of transformation. This cruise will explore UFOs, alien contact, cover-ups, ancient mysteries, the paranormal, holistic healing, and spirituality. Experience engaging lectures, one-on-one sessions, private, custom-tailored excursions, and a nightly UFO watch. The cruise is booking up fast. Go to contactatsea.com and be sure to mention the UNX Network when you book. That's contactatsea.com or phone 336-749-1219. That's 336-749-1219.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UNX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Also, would like to just say hello to everyone that's listening and anybody that's just joined us. I have my special guest, Tom Springer, as we're talking a little bit more of the darker side of the paranormal field in general. So, we're talking about the investigators, the locations, and also some of the things that have been going on and how does this affect the spirit world. Welcome back, Tom.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I haven't got to talk to you in like last 30 seconds, but
Hey,
hey, here we go.
I was answering questions about how to keep mosquitoes off of you in the chat, though, so that's good. So,
Oh, well,
yeah.
tell everybody, how do we keep mosquitoes off of you?
Well, funny enough, Nikki and I have found that if you actually use the original Banana Boat sunblock, not the
Yeah.
light stuff, not the lotion, but the actual original Banana Boat spray, bugs hate it. For some reason, they hate the smell of it, or it blocks you very well. It blocks your, because when bugs actually come to you, they're actually drawn to your scent and like your breath and everything else. They're not actually just focusing on your blood. But if you spray that on there, it's almost like a deterrent, and it works better than DEET or any kind of bug spray I've ever used. I use it all the time when I golf, and it works fantastic.
See, now everybody can say they actually learned something tonight on this show. If they take anything away, it's how to keep the bugs away.
Absolutely.
So we were in kind of the conversation, where again, we're not throwing this stuff out here, guys, to cause issues or anything, but this is something that's really serious at this point because a lot more people are wanting to get into the paranormal. They're wanting to get real answers. There are a lot of them out there. But the thing is, are we starting to taint the field a little bit with us opening these nasty portals for negativity because of everything that's going on, the hate and everything else, because, every one person thinks they're better than another. And I've also been seeing that even the females in the field, when they go to some of these locations, they're getting harassed and stuff too.
Yes.
And so, hearing all this kind of stuff going around, it's almost like a playground for the bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you that there was a location that I was supposed to go on with you not too long ago that we couldn't.
Yeah.
And initially, Nikki and I were supposed to go on that like 2 years ago. And I had a vision that something went after her while we were there. Didn't bother me. It didn't bother any of the guys. It went after her. So I told her, no, we're not going. And it was definitely was looking like it was going to go after the female. And I was like, nope, we aren't playing this game. I'm not even taking the chance. So I shut it down. So luckily enough, I was able to have that come through just to help stop anything. But we did watch a live that was happening at that same place. And I was watching it from home. And people that were in there know who I am. And they were asking me, I was telling them what was going on in the basement. So you know what that basement is like.
Yeah.
I was telling them what was going on in the basement, and they weren't listening to me. And I said, you need to get her out of there. You need to get her out of there. And they didn't. And then stuff went sideways. And they kept saying, Tom's saying you need to get her out of the bed. You need to get out of there. You need to get out of there. You need to get out of there. And they didn't. And it went bad fast that they actually killed the live. And it was, it was just something that was, you can just see it coming. I don't know how I knew. Well, I guess I do now, but I didn't know how I knew at the time.
Yeah.
But I was able to sense it. And it was like I was about to see it. It's almost like I had a small glimpse into the future about what was about to happen if they didn't listen. And that's what happened. And so they had to kill the live. They all had to reset. They all had to do some other stuff. And they had to get her out of there for a little bit. So yes. And that, and that's one of the things that one of the listeners right now asked. And she says, I'm wondering if just by watching investigations on here, on YouTube or wherever else we're on, if they can affect you, and that's a valid question too. If you're just watching, people that are going live or doing anything else, can that affect you where you're at in your home? And it can. Your you're actively participating in what's going on. You are giving it a window. You are giving it an opportunity. You are giving it a link by participating in it. And there's so many people that don't pay attention to that. Now, does it always happen? No. It's few and far between. But it absolutely can if you're not paying attention to your protection. And if it is strong enough to reach out to you where you are through whatever distance it is, but you are giving it a feed. You are giving it an energy.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and like when you're doing the lives, people are participating. You have people with abilities that are telling you what they can see and all that. So they're tapping in.
Right.
And right there, when they're tapping in, especially with people who can do remote viewing, are a lot of times one of the quickest targets because of the way you have to tap into remote view. You actually are a wide open vessel.
Correct.
And a lot of people do not understand, that this is a thing. When we say we remote view or we do this, everybody's like, oh my God, I can do this. So I'm going in, excuse the language, but balls to the walls, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You can put protection around you, but it doesn't always stay on you when you do remote viewing. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to call BS on it every single time.
Or
Because
astral travel. Or astral travel.
well, yeah, astral projection, and that's kind of what you're doing with remote viewing.
Right.
You're having to kind of open that up so you can go somewhere else.
Right.
You can have, if it's biblical or if it's witchy or whatever it is you believe in, you can be holding it in your hand.
Yes.
It does not protect you.
No.
And that's why when people say, well, I remote view all the time, or I do this all the time. And when you try to explain it to them, oh, I know how to protect myself. I'm going to call out BS. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, plain and simple, because I have seen what happens when they do think they know something.
Right.
So,
and if you think of it as, if you're so open when you are unconscious, that if you pay attention to people that are literally in an investigation and they go under to try to tap in. We've seen people that have been holding healing stones, protection stones in their hand, and have just dropped them because their hands won't close because that thing has pushed it out of their hands. So if you think you're going to be able to hold on to something and protect yourself when you're sleeping, you're sorely mistaken. It may protect you, but it doesn't mean it's always going to. And it really depends on the insight the entity can get to you, and how strong that entity is. Like I said, a lot of the lesser strength entities will really look for any crack in a window or any weakness in a person who may not know or have the strength to protect themselves properly.
and that's true, because those lower level entities, I will tell you, are straight up, they're like roaches.
Yes.
Soon as they start infesting, they're going to keep doing it, and it's really hard to get rid of them.
Yeah. And I, and as far as going back to how does that affect, what's going on in the paranormal world right now, as far as team hatred, lack of team unity, straight up backstabbing. I don't care what you want to call it. They're getting something. If it's all love and light all the time, then a lot of people want to watch that. But if you are on an investigation and you are getting the stuff that people crave, which is that negative, they want to see bad stuff happen. As a human, you want to see the train wreck happen. You can't turn. There's a reason that there's such a backup when there is a traffic accident and everybody slows down to look. And it's the same thing in the paranormal world. And when that person or that team or whatever it is grasps a hold of that dark side of it and wants to own it, and is so selfish that they want to start talking bad about other people because they're trying to step onto their toes into that area or whatever it is, it really becomes a true form of hate. And it's not a jealousy. It really is a true form of hate. And that hate has just invited that darkness in.
Absolutely. I have seen it. And the crazy thing is when that darkness hits that person, it almost gives them like, that Superman power
Yes.
where, oh my God, my followers have gotten more because they're on my side. And it just keeps feeding and feeding. And then it creates its own self-manifested type of monster.
Right.
And, then they start having bad luck or whatever the case is, and then of course they always just blame the demon, not taking responsibility of their own actions that caused that.
Right.
And it's starting to become something that is getting so bad that, even if, I mean, we're seeing, well, I'm seeing, and I'm pretty sure you are too, going from that straight hate to people saying they're not worthy enough
Right.
to all these different things just so they can get people to comment or reach out to them.
Right.
And now it's becoming a very dangerous type of thing because when you start getting involved in that and then you do go out to a location or to go help a family, you've got that darkness trying to creep in on you.
Right.
What are you bringing and dropping off, and it's gotten really nasty because I have noticed an uptick of calls of people thinking they've got an infestation of demons
Right.
and all this other kind of stuff, and it's been really crazy. It's like a cycle that it's going through.
Yeah. And it's people who do this need to understand that there's a very thin line between them finding something and being the owner of it to being the parasite it is now using to feed off of.
Yeah.
And it's something as simple as what you're talking about. They start to get negative on themselves. They start to, just because they want that, they crave that attention now. But everyone on this I don't care who you are, everyone on this podcast has heard words have meaning. And if you are not paying attention to the words you are using about yourself, well, then guess what? Something else is also paying attention to the words that you are using, and they will use it against you, and it will lean against you in a very rapid and very wrong way, because it doesn't care about you. It cares about it. And
Correct.
If you're going to give it that opportunity, that opening, there is no consciousness to this thing. It does not have that, oh man, that person's going through a rough time. It's going, man, that person's going through a rough time. Thank you. And so that introduces that darkness back into them without knowing what they're even walking into.
Oh yeah, and if you think about it too, I've been on a couple of events that I've done. And, yes, you always see a little bit of that darkness, but sometimes it depends on how you're doing it to keep it at bay.
Right.
But then you got people who are coming to those events going, oh my God, I feel the darkness. It's giving me names. And they start naming these names off that, of course, has been written all over the place.
Correct.
And you're sitting there thinking, okay, wait a minute. Yes, I know there's a little bit of negative here, but not that bad. But now you're repeating this name and you think it's a demon and you're saying it's coming at us. What the hell have you just opened up?
Right. And it's a perfect example of, like, say you got in an accident and you feel perfectly fine, but the doctor tells you there's something wrong with you. Well, you don't know. You're not the expert. But the
Correct.
doctor is. And even if the doctor has misdiagnosed you, you're going to take that doctor's word, and all of a sudden, maybe that pain grows a little bit, and all of a sudden you have whiplash, and all of a sudden you have these aches and pains that weren't there before they told you something was wrong. And if they'd never said anything, you would have never had those problems in the first place. But it was introduced to you. So now what does it do? It causes a panic. Well, if that happens in a larger crowd, people listen. People crave that type of stuff. So if they're being told what to do, they're being given information about what's out there, some people falsely follow that or blindly follow that. And it just gives its head to whatever it is.
Yeah, because I mean, it's, you think about it, with a lot of things that's out there, it's always to control the masses. I mean, that is kind of the bottom line of things. And so whatever you can throw out there and you get that many people added to it, that is kind of what you're doing, that control of masses. How can I lead it down my way?
Correct.
And and I've talked about this before. We can talk about demons, and it's so easy to talk about it, and we want to see this, or we have certain goddesses and gods that we might follow, however the case is.
Correct.
But as soon as you bring something in about an angel, or you talk about the Bible, or whatever that is, it's like people will cut you down. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Right.
So at what point, have we switched that script of, we want it to be the darkest of days? We want all the bad stuff to happen so we know that there's really paranormal out there, but then we're going to go all over our social medias and talk about love and light.
Right.
Give love and light,
Yeah.
or para unity, which is a BS damn name. Whoever uses that name, it's just, it's dumb.
Yeah. It's paracrap. Yeah.
Somebody made this damn name up and thought, well, let's make it a hashtag.
Right.
Well, right now there is no para-unity. It's people actually threaten each other's lives. There's people, and all this other stuff. And it's like, that ain't para-unity. I'm not going to go in the same place you are, because
right.
I can say I have really, really pissed off some people. And I'll be honest. And, the rumor mills had started growing and all that. But I almost fell for it. I almost was one of those people that was, going to be stuck in that hole of that darkness, to let it eat at me, of like, oh my God, what did I do? Why don't they like me? Oh,
Right.
I can't stand and I had to actually grab a hold of that and say, okay, I'm going to end up manifesting my own darkness.
Right.
And grab a hold of it, because I got to thinking, who cares?
Exactly.
And it was really hard for me to say, who cares? It was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And luckily for me, you know me, you've met me, you've seen my show, everything else. There is a very certain reason that I do my own show and I control everything on my own, because I don't want to fall into that, because I really am one of those people who, I'm sorry, I'm going to cuss on your show, but opinions like are assholes. Everybody has ones and they all stink. So, so I don't care what anyone else thinks. It's me. This is what I'm doing. My show is built for my community to have a place to come and talk to and learn from. But if someone's going to come at me and they're going to see me at a Paracon or whatever else, like, we don't like what you do, sucks to be you, go pound sand. Your opinion means nothing to me, and that's what a lot of people, there's a lot of people that don't go to certain Paracons anymore because of the other people that are there, because they actually care about what the other people think. And it's sad that they put that much into what other people think, that pushes them away from what they love to do.
I totally agree. Like I said, it had a grip on me.
Yeah.
Because I almost let it take control. But I also started noticing the darkness that I was seeing was actually kind of manifesting around me. And I had to stop. I had to dig deep inside and go, why do I care? Or, what, they're not paying my bills or whatever. I just had to get my mind space back into where it was.
Yeah.
But there are people trapped in that. And then, when we're talking about the darkness, when we're doing things, because of that being trapped, it's almost like you've been held hostage in your own mind.
Right.
We're now manifesting our own types of demons.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're just adding to what's already there.
And they're turning inward. They're not reaching out to others for help. They're not talking about it with others who can tell them, this isn't your problem. This is not you. This is them. And by not doing that, that does put them in that dark place. It does introduce something that should have never happened in the first place. And it's simply because we're human. We need that. We crave that. We crave that positivity. We crave that whatever it is from others to show that we're right, rather than who cares what you say. You know, this is me. This is how I am. This is my life. When you start doing for me what I do for me, then I'll care. But you can never do for me what I do for me, so I don't care. I have other friends. I have tons of friends. I have a wonderful family my audience that I call my family because they're fantastic. They're my friends. But if ever they decide they don't want to watch my show, best of luck. But it's not going to make me go, what did I do wrong on my show? You know, that's not how it should work.
Yeah. I mean, I was able to get over that hump, but
Yeah.
I think about how many people haven't.
Right.
You know, a lot of people go, "Oh, that's okay," you know, and I got over it and I'm just going to go down my own road, but you can see that it's still
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And those are the types of people that are going into some of these locations, dropping a lot of that stuff off.
Right.
So, and I've been to a lot of locations numerous times, and I have noticed from like the first time I went there to now going, this place is not the same. It doesn't have the
Right.
same spirits.
Yeah.
What happened? Did we evict them? And now we got a whole new, team of players that we're trying to figure out.
Well, and
And
my first team did that. We used to follow it wasn't on purpose, but we would follow a group, another paranormal investigation into a location, and we've been there before, and it was fine. But then, like, this group went in there the week before we got there, and the next time we got there, the place was just vicious. The place was just evil. What did they do to that place the week before we got there that changed that energy so bad that it flipped everything that we were used to seeing in that location? You know, how bad do you have to be as a team to antagonize and to drop off your own baggage and to call things out and just try to make it dark that it is harmful, potentially harmful for the next group that goes in?
yeah. And then we're also talking about those locations because they don't want that stuff out.
Right.
They're very hush hush, and they always, like we said, it's all love and light. And then when you're going in there and you're going, wait a minute, no,
Yeah.
this is wrong. And if you even open your mouth, well, then, of course, you get blacklisted or whatever they do here in the paranormal field. But at the same time, you're getting those phone calls. And it it's just kind of like you don't even know where to go anymore.
Right.
Like I said, it's gotten so bad, it's straight out, not para unity, but para bullying,
Yeah. It really.
and I'm like, when did we all go back to junior high?
Yeah.
And it's starting to really, you can tell it affects some of really good people with abilities
It
too.
does. What?
And the people that I love talking to, the ones that are skeptics that can kind of help guide me, it's like they don't want no part of it either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to see that that we all preach that we're all working for the same goal, but yet so many people want to backstab to get to that final goal, and it's really rough, just everywhere right now. And like you said in the beginning, this isn't to scare people. This isn't calling anybody out. This is really just pointing out the truths about what's going on right now. Not everything is puppy dogs and rainbows. It just doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, it seems like it has really escalated. It's really elevated recently. I can say it, especially within the past year, 6 months, that this has really taken off. And I don't know if it's because everybody's finally out of the house. Everybody's finally able to go do everything again because we're not locked down anymore. So many people had their awakening while we were under COVID rules, and they're all now just so excited to go out and do it, but they're doing it the wrong way, and they're just being cutthroat about it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it is. And yeah, again, we were saying, everybody has an opinion. We
Yep.
all do. These are just things that we've seen. But I know a lot of people that watch your show or might listen to this podcast, they have social media. So, of course, they're going to see that kind of stuff. And it's not just, we're seeing it mainly in the paranormal field. But at the same time, there are a lot of us out there and people that I've met that are really good, that are
Yeah.
still doing the stuff they're supposed to, and that I love meeting when we come to the events. I love meeting these people and experiencing the things for the first time.
Right.
So, just to make sure people know, we're not here bashing anybody, but we have to look at this now more on a serious side, because if this stuff continues and it is growing more stuff of the negative type, when we go in as, the listeners and everybody that follow you, Tom, or me, that we're aware of that and start looking past, like you said, the unicorns and the fairies and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So, I want to thank you for being with me tonight. We're going to start closing out for the evening. I definitely would love to have you back, because I think we have just kind of scratched the surface.
Absolutely.
Because I know this puzzle is going to come together at some point. But I also want to let everybody know that October 11th through the 13th in Springfield, Missouri, it is going to be XCon 2024 Into the Rabbit Hole. This is an amazing con. This is from UFOs, paranormal, cryptids, and more. I was there last year as a speaker. I got to say, it was the best type of paracon I've ever been to. People are so open. They have amazing stories. If you're around the area, I would honestly say definitely go there. If it's one day, the whole weekend. Some of the speakers, I just blew me away. I, Tom, if you guys get time, you might want to come swing by.
I was going to say that may be something Nikki and I may have to trek down to and go check out, because it's within
Oh yeah, you'll love it. Plus, I found out Springfield has a Whataburger, so that's a win for
Oh, there
me.
you go. Yeah.
But again, thank you to everybody who has been listening, who follow, Tom, follow myself. We greatly appreciate you. We couldn't be doing this without all your guys' support. I am honestly going to say I am sending lots of love. Until next time, I'll see you in the dark.